Hello there, guys. You're not seeing a mirage. You are indeed seeing the long-awaited, by some people, by us maybe, return of the Talking Crap YouTube channel. If you haven't been here before, I'm Lucas Jackson. I'm joined, of course, by Jazzy Josh Porter.
Oh, I thought we lost that name. Oh.
Was that a lockdown name, maybe?
I don't know. I don't know. For those of you who don't watch DKW, Mr. Matt Ball gave me that name many, many years ago.
It just
somehow it's stuck. But for the last year, I haven't been called it.
But I think obviously, people use the channel, maybe not seen stuff before. Like, obviously, talking about more than a lockdown project, very much so.
Yeah.
When we've kind of discussed it many times since, it has been kind of what we did in 2020. And, we had various episodes previously where we talked, obviously, a load of topics, mainly, obviously, about wrestling. That's basically our backgrounds. I run DKW Academy in Essex. Josh Paul is the commentator.
And I just take whatever wrestling bookings I get as well.
yeah, much. But look, we're here and we're back, and we're just doing things a bit differently. Obviously, lockdown gave us a lot of time to do this, and obviously life restarted. We got jobs and girlfriends potentially.
No! Let's not open that door.
We're talking about personal life stuff here. But we're just trying to make it a bit different. Like, obviously, predominantly the channel will be wrestling. So, if you're a wrestling fan, then that's good. You're in the right place. But if you're not a wrestling fan, we're going to do some topics that are going to be outside of wrestling, aren't we? We're going to talk about films.
I've got a few spin-offs. You've got a few spin-offs.
Yeah.
Stuff to kind of keep it interesting.
Yeah, and so just to get out of the way, we are here now. We'll be talking about, of course, one of the big events, though, in wrestling. That's what we're back for. I think that's what kind of brought us back when we kind of have the talk. We spoke quite a lot about, shall we do an episode on this? Shall we do an episode on that? But I think we couldn't resist the Royal Rumble. It's the start of the year. It's the start of the road to WrestleMania.
I mean, that would also explain the Royal Rumble intro I designed.
Yeah,
because I sent you a draft of the intro for our return.
Yeah.
And then when I was watching the Royal Rumble the other day, I was like, "We're doing a Royal Rumble episode. How have I not taken the opportunity to find like the actual Royal Rumble countdown and just stick that on it?" And I was like, "Yep, that'll do."
But I mean, I think now, like I said, we're moving forward where we're going on to things. We're just trying some different things. Like, it's Josh and I, we're good friends, and like we probably have very different opinions about certain things. So,
that's what makes podcasts fun.
I think
you can't have, if you're going to have a podcast with two people hosting it, you cannot have the same opinions. Well, you can, but you've got to have some different opinions.
Yeah, of course. That's all. What part of makes this wrestling fun. I think the Rumble
have a discussion otherwise.
Indeed, I think we're going to get to it. The first segment we're going to do is called Praise This. And I think it's very important for wrestling fans to kind of remember that as much as we like to be the biggest critics of any product we're watching, we have to praise certain things. And let's just be real, the Rumble's just cool, isn't it? It's just a great way to start the year. It really kind of, you're going to hear it quite a lot. It's the start of the road to WrestleMania. And it's when, obviously, a big part of what is now kind of the casual fan base kind of returns to watching the product because they're excited about the big names, the big surprises, and just the biggest moments, really. They kind of happen in this period, don't they, up to WrestleMania. Obviously, WrestleMania, the culmination of that. Whether you love, hate, anywhere in between with the WWE, I think the Rumble's that event where it just is enough to stop me from scrolling past when you see, oh, there's a Rumble and who's going to be in the Rumble. And I think so. At first, we're going to praise it. We're going to talk. Why does the Rumble work? Why does it get us so excited? Do you think, Josh?
I think it's completely different from every other stipulation. Like, 90% of wrestling match stipulations are some form of increased violence or mayhem. But the Royal Rumble is it's a different match. I swear I muted that, Alexa. Apparently I haven't, but we move. I'll deal with that later. But the Royal Rumble is it's just a bizarre match type that shouldn't work that does. The idea of having the traditional of you're in a wrestling ring, you can't leave the wrestling ring. Oh, but in this match, the whole goal is to make sure your opponent isn't in it.
Yeah.
Essentially, by any means necessary.
I think it's because it kind of for me, it's like every match that's exciting, the Rumble just goes the complete extremes of it because it can lead to 1-on-1 bits, 2-on-1, triple threats, fatal 4-ways, 6-ways, all the kind of stuff that can happen in the match.
Yeah,
and it's constantly adding to it, which is different. Because obviously, when there's a singles match and there's, obviously it can build, with the spots and with the action of the wrestlers. With a Rumble, it builds naturally with the new entrants constantly coming in, people exiting the match, and I just think I don't know. It's just an institution now at this point, isn't it? Really, it's how we start.
Not only that, but the concept of every man's for himself as well. Like you've got enemies coming in here that end up working together at some point. And then you've got tag teams coming in that they're like, oh, well, it's just us now. What do we do?
Yeah.
Do we fight? Do we not? Do we wait for the next person? And there's been, thanks to that, there's been so many not controversial, but so many moments where you've gone, oh, I thought they were friends, or, oh, I thought they weren't friends.
Yeah, I think obviously because it makes you, it is the ultimate every man for himself.
Yeah.
I think the Royal Rumble as well, like obviously the first Rumble dates back to 1988, won by, of course, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. But I think
I watched that the other day.
Yeah, I've watched every single Royal Rumble match, particularly and again for research for kind of this episode.
Yeah.
But I think, this obviously at the end of the 80s, I think they were at the peak of the Battle Royals. Honestly, if you're a fan of old school WF, you understand that, yes, a Battle Royal would feature quite often on the cards, during the 80s. And it's weird that initially Battle Royals obviously were built for big men to win them. So obviously Andre the Giant pretty much won about 95,000 of them. Big John Studd obviously was another one. You had two kind of big giants that won these things. And even to go back further than that, you had to like giant, Haystack Spoon, who obviously, he was a winner of a lot of these kind of matches. And so I think it kind of reached its peak, but people realise that I think it's a bit messy a Battle Royal, isn't it? The difference between a Battle Royal and a Rumble.
Oh, well and truly. You think that the way they start off are completely different.
Yeah.
Battle Royal is a multi-man match from start to finish.
Yeah.
Royal Rumble starts off as a singles match and progresses into multi-man and then ends with a singles match, basically.
Yeah, depending on how they've done the finish.
Yes, I think a Royal Rumble is just... Although there's more people, it is a cleaner way to do a Battle Royal with more than the traditional 4 to 6 people.
Yeah, I think also the intervals are very key here because it allows the match to kind of have stages, and you can kind of, not that I'd suggest doing this, but you can come into the match at different stages and realise quite quickly where you're at and then watch it from there. But I think ultimately it is just the ultimate unknown, because obviously there are 30 entrants, and yes, the entrants have varied over the years. But I think that ultimately there is still that feeling for the first time of the year that anyone could win. Anyone could win. Especially those moments where you have so many big names. Like I was watching the 2002 Royal Rumble the other day, and there's bits there where you've got Kurt Angle, Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Booker T, Rob Van Dam, all in the ring at the same time. Kane, all in the ring at around the same kind of time. I'm thinking at that moment, like anyone that wins this is I'll be down for.
Well, you think there are some dream match scenarios because of that?
Yeah, like I think even if you go based on Royal Rumble runner-ups. There we are.
Got there in the end.
You're talking about a list of many of them are already in Hall of Fame, but you're talking about a list of top tier talent. We mentioned them just there. Kurt Angle, someone who never won a Royal Rumble match. One of the things he never won. I'm sure he's sitting fine as a multiple-time world champion through 2 companies, and in both.
Pretty sure the only man to win a world title in TNA, WWE/F. And Japan.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's been people who have won championship in Japan and WWE, but not in TNA as well, I believe.
Yeah.
But he never won a Royal Rumble. He also never won Money in the Bank because obviously he had retired kind of prior to that really been the institution that it is today. That's another episode. But yeah, like Kurt Angle, you'd argue like he's probably. I guess I'd get onto that question now. Like, who's the kind of person who you think should have won a Rumble but didn't win one? That makes sense.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Kurt Angle, easily one of them. Did Sting ever win a Royal Rumble? Was he ever in a Royal Rumble, actually?
No.
I think he could have been. Not could have been as in I think he was. Could have been as in there is a moment in time where the opportunity was right.
Well,
I think Sting arguably is one of the best to have never competed in a Royal Rumble, let alone win one.
I think you changed the question, but yeah, I guess I guess if we have to go down that line, then yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm looking at a picture of Sting right in front of me now, but yeah, Sting debuted for the WWE, believe it or not, in 2014 at Survivor Series. Then he had his first match, didn't he, at WrestleMania?
Yeah.
So he was not a part of the Royal Rumble match, and I believe he had only returned. I think he returned the night after the Rumble, so he skipped. He did wrestle obviously at Night of Champions that year, where sadly his injury that did end his WWE career anyway.
Temporarily ended his career.
Well, in his WWE career, because he hadn't wrestled. And he
hasn't wrestled in WWE since.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was never in the Royal Rumble match, and I think that's maybe a whole other category. But I think let's look at the people who have actually been in the Royal Rumble, and there's been lots that have been in many. But I think Kurt Angle's one that jumps out. I think Chris Jericho potentially.
Two former world champions that they don't need that accolade, but I'd love to see them with that accolade. I
think thing is the Rumble. It's about timing, isn't it?
Yeah,
timing. I think obviously as the years of, I mean, when you watch, I think the Rumble now we're in what match for the men anyway? At least we're on match number 36, 37 this year. I think. Can't remember which one it is now.
Started in '88. I'm not doing that maths.
Someone might help us with that. But
I'll add it somewhere down below.
It's 30-something.
Yeah.
If you look very quickly, because again, we must mention here actually is that the reason why the Royal Rumble was the start of the road to WrestleMania, that began obviously in 1993 when that caveat was added to the Rumble match that the winner would receive the championship opportunity at WrestleMania.
Yeah, because prior to that, it was very weird.
Yeah, I mean, previous Rumbles, obviously 88, was pretty much, well, that's the only one that's on a 2-hour event. It wasn't really a pay-per-view at the time. Then the 89, 90, 1991s were all on pay-per-view and were big matches in their own right, but didn't have the championship opportunity on the line. In fact, the WWE champion Hulk Hogan obviously won both of those back-to-back, actually. And then 1992 was when they had the whole Ric Flair real world champion kind of thing going for it, and was the first of 2 Rumble matches, of course, where the actual match was for the championship. The other, of course, being Triple H's one that he won in 2016. So, but 1993, they added that caveat at WrestleMania, and on the whole, it's been the same since then. They've obviously added and changed championships. Obviously, let's never forget the years where ECW was a brand, and the winner could have obviously got that. They've had NXT.
Did anyone ever do that?
No. I think the clause was in there. I think between 2007 and 2010, and was never used by anyone. I think
the only reason they didn't do that is they were like, why go for the ECW title when I can go for a bigger one?
Yeah, I think obviously you would have to have like ECW original, like a Tommy Dreamer or a Sandman or Sabu. It's still mad those people actually wrestled for the on the main shows.
Yeah, but, I don't know. I think the only reason they did that is because that was the only ECW fix they could get.
Yes, yeah, because the brand had long been retired. But I think, I think end of the day, like we're at the stage where you're like, oh, sorry.
Meanwhile, not sponsored. Wish we were.
Sorry, I'm trying to thought that. What was your point before that? Sorry.
Prior to what? The last thing I said was Tommy Dream. The only reason Tommy Dream was fit for WWE is because that was the only fix they can get for ECW.
Okay, cool. So 3, 2, 1, back in. Yeah, I think that you'd have to have an ECW original kind of be the person.
Yeah.
And I think having, because ECW was treated like its own thing, when NXT very quickly kind of merged with the main roster, and it felt a bit like that wouldn't make sense. And obviously Charlotte Flair, obviously when she won the women's Royal Rumble match, she obviously did challenge for that NXT Championship, but she's the only person to have done that thus far
and successfully win.
Indeed, this year though, both the men's and women's Rumbles are for only the main roster World Championships, which will be interesting, obviously, with the men, because obviously this year the champions are both the same person.
Yeah, so, you don't really have a choice who you face.
Yeah, the man will be facing Roman Reigns, but we'll get to that match a bit later on. So yeah, I mean, look, so we praised quite a lot of stuff. Like I think there's so many moments that stick out with the Rumbles, and the history of the Rumble is quite interesting. But now let's talk about fix that. As much as obviously we praise those kind of things, there's things that haven't gone well, for Royal Rumble, and so we were using our brains here to come up with an idea for how to fix a Rumble that didn't go too well. And I'm going to start with, I think, probably the elephant in the room. The 2015 Royal Rumble match, regarded as one of the worst Rumbles, along with 2014, to be fair, as they were both pretty bad. But 2015, of course, was won by Roman Reigns, who would go on to bore us all to death with a match at WrestleMania against Triple H that we knew would just be meh.
Yeah, it was one of those matches where it was lined up for failure from the get-go.
Yeah.
It was just set up to go wrong.
I think that one second, are we in the wrong year? We are, aren't it? Roman Reigns won. Right, we'll just research that fact. Because Triple H won the Rumble in 2016, didn't they?
Good question.
Yeah, it's the wrong year. It's the wrong year. Sorry, Roman Reigns did win the Rumble, but he challenged Brock Lesnar, didn't they? And Seth Rollins cashed in.
The heist of the century.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Restart that bit so we're not in the wrong year. Sorry. Right. Okay. Sorry. Let's start again.
2016.
Yeah, 2016. That was Triple H's one, and he won that, and then Roman Reigns the title shot.
That was where, for 4 matches, particularly because of the hierarchy of the attractions, in the main event, Roman Reigns defeated Triple H to win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, because Roman Reigns won the opportunity at, I think it was Fastlane or something.
Maybe.
Block or bum sex, whatever it was.
I didn't actually say.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a triple threat, I think, with him, Dean Ambrose, and Daniel Bryan. And obviously, it was one of those where everyone knew Roman Reigns would win because he was going to face.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It was 2016, that's as much as I can tell you.
Yeah, but 2015's Rumble I'm talking about, though, in question.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Right. 3, 2, when you're ready.
Yep.
I'll be back now. So, the next segment is called Fix That. And this is about talking about Rumble matches that perhaps didn't go to plan. As there's been a few, sadly. Definitely within the last 10 years, it seems, as well. There's been quite a few where you're like, ugh. I'm going for the sake of... I think sometimes these moments need to kind of maybe let breathe. So I'm going to dismiss the last kind of couple of years of Rumble matches because I think sometimes you can be unfairly cruel on ones that have just happened. And I think last year's ones were definitely a mess, but potentially with WWE, they do sometimes redeem themselves through other stories about those people. So let's let those breathe a little bit. But I think one that kind of unanimously that comes up, when I did my research for this, as a bad Royal Rumble match was the 2015 one. And now this actually followed a Rumble the year before, which was bad as well. But I think 2015 took that and said, hold my beer. I think as much as 2014, was the year where obviously, everyone anticipated Daniel Bryan to be number 30. and then booed the hell out of Rey Mysterio when he came out.
Ironically.
But 2015 was the year where they eliminated Daniel Bryan very early in the match, and the crowd turned. And you then had the authority angle, which by that point it was dead in the dodo. You know, it was completely worn out. And as much as Kane and Big Show are obviously WWE institutions, like, you know, Hall of Famers, whatever you want to call them, like, it was just too long in the tooth by then for me. And then it culminated in a boring finish that Roman Reigns won the Rumble match. And then The Rock came out and raised his hand and raised his eyebrow and just thought probably, how quickly can I get out of here? You know?
I've made a mistake coming here. I should have stayed at home.
I'm an actual movie star. I don't need this. But in my opinion, I think the easy route to go here is to say, well, Daniel Bryan's got to win.
Yeah.
And I think that while, yes, that would have been the very, very easy fix, I think that, you know, WWE clearly didn't see him as that guy.
He didn't even need to win. He just needed to at least make to the top three.
I think
the final three at least.
I think Daniel Bryan's booking in that match was the problem.
Yeah.
I think if he had come out, if he had been the Iron Man of that Rumble, because, you know, everyone in the Rumble has their key roles, as we know.
Yeah.
If he had been the Iron Man of that Rumble match, I think that would have been the way to go with him. But the fact that they kind of reduced his time and got him out, I think, about a third of the way in, and that was the issue. The easy fix, yes, you have him win. But I think that potentially someone like a Bray Wyatt winning that year would have done wonders. I think, you know, having the year he had the year before, where obviously Cena beat him at WrestleMania, they have that whole weird kind of feud.
To be fair, that's another guy I wish would have won a Royal Rumble.
Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
Well, you know, this year obviously he doesn't appear to be in the men's Rumble match.
I have no idea what they're doing with him at the moment. Let's just let's put that back in the drawer and come back to that another episode.
Yeah. But yeah, I would have actually had Bray Wyatt win.
Yeah.
I think that they, you know, constantly with Bray, they kind of have, you know, kind of ruined his momentum. And I think that would have been a chance for them to kind of redeem themselves. I think it would have gotten. Because the thing is, I think, as much what I'm saying, I guess, is they don't want Daniel Bryan to win. But the problem is, the person they want to win, people really, really don't want to win. Bray Wyatt was kind of in the middle of that sandwich of like, more people would want him than Roman, but obviously not as much as Daniel Bryan. But that would have been
lesser of two evils kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think that would have been the way I would have fixed that. Personally, I would have then gone down the route. I think the champion at the time in 2015 was Brock Lesnar. They were flirting with the match as well, weren't they, at one point?
Yeah.
Right, and it never kind of happened. You know, because Bray got injured and then obviously couldn't do the program with Lesnar. I think that was a year that Brock faced Dean Ambrose at WrestleMania. So I think it was already kind of in their mindset anyway. And it wouldn't have been a bad time to do that match.
Yeah.
You know. But I guess Bray would have had to lose on the basis that obviously Brock was in that year of absolute just dominance and badassery.
Yeah, to be fair, there is another Rumble, I think. Could even it's fixing or throwing in the bin and never talking about again.
Oh.
The 1999 Royal Rumble.
Oh, okay. So
winner, ignoring the winner.
Yeah.
McMahon winning. Completely fine, because at the time he had nuclear heat.
Mm-hmm.
Him winning worked perfectly for what they were going for. But it's having people in that match like Gilbert, just Gilbert, having Gilbert in that match. There was too much comedy relief. They're trying to build up to like this big oh, what the fuck have you done? Like finish. With McMahon winning. But then they just decided to throw people like Gilbert in there and be like, oh, yeah, this is fine. He has no chance in hell of winning, but he'll be funny. But the problem was he just wasn't funny. None of them were funny.
I think that the bigger issue is that I think people didn't really care about
No.
that. The main story, obviously, of course, was the 1 and 2, and I think it has a uniqueness to it, the '99 Rumble, in that obviously the main story happens outside of the actual Rumble wrestling ring,
Yeah.
which obviously, as you said previously, the main attraction of the Rumble is that everyone's in the ring.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's been multiple occasions, obviously, where a superstar has been thrown or been pulled out of the ring, through the ropes or whatever, and attacked. And this was probably the biggest kind of example of this because, Vince McMahon and Stone Cold, brought all the way to to upstairs, and Stone Cold was out of the match for a long time. And Vince didn't do much wrestling in the match, even though he obviously was in the match for the longest amount of time.
Yeah, but the whole purpose of McMahon being in that match was to add heat to the storyline, to add flames to the fire. But what they ended up doing was extinguishing those flames for that single match by having all of this comedy relief, taking away from the controversies of what was going on backstage. It's like,
And even though you like those from Yokozuna, who obviously did win the '93 Royal Rumble after Randy Savage tried to pin him after an elbow drop. But anyway, we move. But I just think Mabel, Viscera, Big Daddy V, whatever the fuck you want to call him, like he is just not that attraction big wrestler who can actually do anything. He's just a fat guy who can't do anything. Injured half the roster the first time he was around. Got so many chances, to be part of the WWE. And got
Nia Jax of the Attitude Era.
Oh God, it's a bit controversial, but yeah,
Just saying.
I just think why. But yeah, he was in the '99 Rumble, so that instantly for me makes it bad. And yeah, Kurgan, Gangrel.
and having people like Gilbert and Mabel. However, I have just remembered I saw a note underneath the participants list. The whole Mabel being in it was actually a storyline to get him into the Ministry of Darkness. Because number 11 being Mabel's spot, was originally drawn by Headbanger Mosh, who was attacked and replaced by Mabel on his way to the ring. Midian, Farouk, and Bradshaw then eliminated Mabel and then would indoctrinate him into the Ministry of Darkness as Viscera on the following Raw.
Okay.
So there was a purpose for him being there, but no purpose for him being in WWE.
Yeah, I just can't fathom why he was given so many chances. That's the whole thing.